Through this video, I seek to share with you chapter 34 of Lamennais' book on his belief. Words of a Believer is the title of the book. Let me first of all state why I thought it would be a desirable thing to share this particular short chapter 34 of the book with you. In my life, I have encountered people of various kinds and descriptions. While meeting with several of them, I have been reminded very strongly of certain types. Sometimes these types reminded me also of certain animals, which is not surprising because human beings are part of the animal kingdom. In every definition of the human, the word animal occurs. Man is a rational animal, thinking animal. Man is a worshipping animal. Man is a social animal. Man is a political animal. Man is a meaning-seeking animal. So on and so forth. Take any definition of man, including women, you'll have the word animal as a common factor. So it's only natural if certain human beings remind us very strongly of certain animals. Now, in this chapter, Lamennais, who, as I said twice before, was a very popular, much respected Roman Catholic priest in France, but because of his radical views, his tendency to think freely and boldly, he was thrown out of the church. So, in this chapter, Lamennais tries to introduce various types of people to us. Now, it would be of great practical use to become a little more aware of these types. He, of course, doesn't identify the animal analogues or the animals corresponding to certain types of human beings. He only describes them in terms of certain qualities and attributes. But in my opinion, being clear on this can provide a lot of helpful clues in understanding people and, of course, in understanding ourselves. Now, without any further ado, let me read chapter 34, which, as I said at the beginning, is a very short chapter. The evils which afflict the earth come not from God, for God is love, and all that He does is therefore good. The evils that afflict the earth come from Satan, whom God hath cursed, and from men who have Satan for their father and master. So he says that broadly human beings can be put in two categories. One, those who regard or those for whom God is their father and master. And the second category are people for whom Satan is their father and their master. So, two broad categories, very easy to remember. And the sons of Satan are numerous in the world. According to Lamennais, the sons of Satan far outnumber the children of God. And in the Gospels, Jesus says, I have come that you may become children of God. The sons of Satan are numerous in the world. As they pass, God writes their names in a sealed book, which shall be opened and read before all men at the close of time. When the judgment day comes, people will be identified in terms of who and what they really are. There are men who love, now comes the various categories. There are men who love nothing but themselves, and these are the men of hatred. For to love themselves alone is to hate others. He says there are certain types of people who distinguish themselves by their inclination to hate all else except themselves. And he correctly says that this habit of hating, this inclination, natural inclination to hate others, arises out of their self-love, because if you only love yourself, then the outcome is that you will end up hating all else except you, or at least all those who are different to you. There are men, so this is the first type, men of hate. There are men of haughtiness, men of pride, arrogant pride, men of haughtiness who cannot bear equality, who wish always to command and domineer. You'll certainly come across such men, and now increasingly women also. Their greatest delight is in dominating others. Why? Because they're allergic to equality. And this problem universally afflicts men rather than women, though women are not altogether free from this epidemic. Men find it far more difficult to tolerate equals. This is an idea that I already introduced through one of my earlier videos. And therefore, men tend to see those who are equal to them mostly as enemies. A man is happy to be dominated by somebody else who he considers to be higher than him, either in rank or in power or affluence or influence, or he is very keen to dominate those he regards less powerful or weaker than himself, weaker in money, influence, position, etc. There are men of covetousness, greed, men of greed. So we have come across men of hate, men of pride, and now the third category, men of greed, who always demand gold, honors, enjoyments. They want to get everything for themselves, tangibles and intangibles. For example, you will come across people who are very, very keen to have flattery. They delight in flattery. Flattery is something that they extort from other people. And if you don't flatter them as they expect you to flatter them, then in all likelihood they will look at you with anger and resentment, and they might even label you as their enemies. Then the fourth category. Then there are men of theft who watch the weak to rob them by force or stratagem. Now you will come across such men both in politics and in religion. Anyone who relates to a fellow human being in terms of what is in that person's purse or pocket is either a thief or a beggar. He is not a fellow human being. He is incapable of being a fellow human being, no matter how exalted a position he holds. If suppose I'm a bishop, and I look at all my parishioners, all members of my church, only in terms of what I can extort or gain from them, then according to Lamennais, I'm a thief. So a thief is not merely someone who breaks into your house at night or who ambushes you on the highway when you travel. A thief can also be holding a very high position, and his distinctive hallmark is wherever he is and whoever he relates to, his only obsession is with what he can extort from you, what he can get out of you. Such a person must be seen as a thief. So there are men of theft who watch the weak to rob them by force or stratagem, and who prowl at night around the habitation of the widow and the orphan, and in order to steal from them whatever they can get. From the orphan, they can steal their money. From the widow, her honor. Okay. Now comes the next category. There are men of murder, filled with thoughts of violence, who say, "You are our brethren," and kill those whom they call their brethren, as soon as they suspect them to be opposed to their designs, and they write laws in their blood. So these men of violence cannot tolerate anyone who has interests, aims, goals different to what they espouse, and who adopt a stand which they consider to be inconvenient. So they use extreme violence in silencing them, in neutralizing them, in putting them out of their way. And they have no qualms in shedding blood. Now comes the sixth category. There are men of fear. We certainly agree, don't we? And such men are quite rampant in the Christian community. They are men of fear who tremble before the wicked and kiss their hands, hoping thereby to escape their oppression. Hundreds of people in the recent months and years have shared their moral indignation at what's happening in the church. And I've asked each one of them, would you take a public stand against what you consider to be such intolerable situations replete with corruption? You say, no, we can't. We'll get into serious trouble. So, men of fear. And their only concern, the only obsession with which they handle every situation is, how can I escape or avoid oppression? How can I save my skin? Right? And who, when an innocent man is attacked in public place, hasten to their homes and shut the door after them. They just want to be safe. Let the innocent man be attacked, killed, doesn't matter. I must save my skin. Nothing should scratch my skin. All these men have destroyed peace, security, and liberty on the earth. He says all these 6-7 categories of men that he has identified, they are equal threats to peace, harmony, and security on planet Earth. And never will you find again liberty, security, and peace, but in contending against them without ceasing. Now, Lamennais is not the kind of namby-pamby pastoralist who believes that every person has to be tolerated. He feels that these 6-7 types that he identified must be very strongly and stiffly opposed. Do not try to enter into compromises with them. Do not say, oh, well, God will forgive, God will change their hearts. No, after all, who am I to judge? These are all strategies to cop out, strategies to shirk responsibility, according to Lamennais. He says you have to take a stand. Now, I'm reminded in this context of the message that goes to the church at Laodicea. You are neither hot nor cold. I wish you were either hot or cold, but you are lukewarm. This is a sign of lukewarmness. It doesn't matter. Whatever rot happens, whatever crimes, whatever signs of moral degradation stare us in the face, look the other way. Save your skin. Let sleeping dogs lie. Why should I invite trouble and hostile attention to myself? Okay. Or finally, in extreme situations of piety, we say, God will take care of it. God will punish it. And I have nothing to do. That kind of thing. So such men endanger liberty in this world. Then he goes on to say, the city which they have made is a city of Satan. The city built by these people, the various types that we have now discovered or identified, the city built by them is a city of Satan and not the city of God. It's the task of the godly to build the city of God. In the city of God, each one loves his brothers and sisters as himself. That, of course, is the second commandment, as we know. And therefore is it that no one is forsaken. In the city of God, no one will be forsaken. No one will be abandoned to suffer alone. And there will be a remedy for the sufferings of the people, because men are not cowards, men are not selfish, men are not violent, men are not greedy, men are not eager to shirk responsibility, and instead they are willing to engage with the realities of the lived world. In this context, please remember the parable of the sheep and the goats that Jesus taught. And in that parable, what makes the difference between heaven and hell is whether or not you have responded to the needs of your fellow human beings. I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was naked, you clothed me, so on and so forth. That's what it means to build the city of God. Responding to the needs of fellow human beings out of whatever resources, the Almighty has committed to our charge. In the city of God, all are equal, no one tyrannizes, no justice, for justice alone reigns in the city of love. Now, in other words, Lamennais is stating very clearly that the city of God will be totally free from the burden and curse of hierarchy. See, we can't think of religion without a hierarchy. Church will collapse if there is no hierarchy. I remember running a course online for those whoever would be interested. And there was a very scholarly lady, very well-meaning person, absolutely lovable. But when it came to the question of my making a reference to how the kingdom of God is incompatible with this worldly curse of hierarchy, therefore the inequality that goes with it, she got seriously offended and she discontinued attending that course, because from birth onwards we are hardwired in this idea that Christianity is all about hierarchy. Though anyone with even a nodding acquaintance of the Bible, acquaintance of what Jesus taught and what he practiced, can be no doubt whatsoever that hierarchy is utterly incompatible with the ethos and the culture of the kingdom of God, which is what Jesus came to unveil and propagate. But the religion which presumably is established in the name of Jesus Christ cannot survive except on the strength of hierarchy. This contradiction is something that we take for granted, but it's high time we realize the serious spiritual damage this has done to individual believers, various churches, as well as Christendom at large. In the city of God, each one possesses without fear that which is his own and desires nothing more, because that which belongs to each belongs to all, for all possess God and in whom all things are comprehended. So the city of God is free from greed and the strife, the conflict, the tension and the violence issuing from greed, and people care for each other, therefore they care and share, and therefore there is no need to resort to violence to meet one's basic needs. In the city of God, no one sacrifices others to himself. This is the pattern of the world. You will be considered smart if you sacrifice 10 people to secure your gain, your profit, or your advantage. Have no conscience problems. Let nothing prick your conscience. Pursue your earthly goals with absolute vehemence. Let no tender consideration stand in the way. No sense of fellow feeling, no compassion, no consideration for truth, justice, etc. Be brutal in the pursuit of your earthly gains. And then, when you achieve your goals, the whole world will applaud you for your efficiency and your great talent. And priests and bishops will come and say, this gentleman, this millionaire, this billionaire now is God's darling. See how God has blessed him. And to the priestly class of all ages and all religions, there's only one form of godly blessing, and that is earthly wealth. So, in the city of God, if a wicked man should glide in, all separate themselves from him. Whereas in the city of man, in the worldly cities, when a wicked man comes in, especially if he is successful and prosperous, all people will gravitate towards him, right? But in the city of God, exactly the opposite will happen. People will run away from him, all separate themselves from him, and all unite to restrain him. They resist him. They put up a joint resistance against him or to drive him out. Lamennais is making a case here for holy intolerance. Do not tolerate evil. Do not give undue respect and acceptance to forces of evil or the children of Satan, as that's the expression he has already used. For the wicked man is the enemy of everyone. It is like admitting the wolf into the fold of the sheep, right? What will happen to the sheep? One after the other, the sheep will disappear. For the wicked man is the enemy of each one, everyone, and the enemy of each must be the enemy of all. The wolf may be eating only one sheep per day, but he is the enemy of all sheep. It's only a matter of time before the last sheep also disappears. When you shall have rebuilt the city of God, now the city of God is in ruins, because Satan now exercises complete sway over the affairs of the world. You remember the third temptation that Jesus faced. Jesus was taken to the top of the mountain, and there shown the glories and the riches of the world. And Satan offers the temptation that if only Jesus would fall down and worship him, Satan would give him all of that on a platter. So when you have rebuilt the city of God, the earth shall blossom again, and the people shall once more be refreshed, because you will have conquered the sons of Satan who oppress the people. Right now, human beings all over the world live in a state of oppression, and the earth is desolate, he says. The men of haughtiness, that is, men of pride, the men of theft, the men of murder, and the men of fear rule the roost. So that's what Lamennais says in this chapter. And perhaps this is the third and the last video I make based on Lamennais' book, Words of a Believer. I've already given the reference several times. I've done these 3 videos with the secret intention also of motivating all of you to read. Just this morning, I got a very happy response in the comments box. One of the members of our YouTube fellowship writes that because he happened to watch one of the videos, he looked up on the net Hannah Arendt's book, to which I had made a reference, Origins of Totalitarianism, and he downloaded that book and read it, and he's highly excited about it. And he feels that it was a worthwhile read, and he feels grateful that a reference was made which motivated him to go through the book. These are some of the happiest responses I get. And this is not a one-off response. Many members of this group are responding in this manner. That also is something that motivates me to introduce more and more books to this intellectual fellowship titled A Temple of Thought. So let's continue our journey, and remember our stated goal is to propagate a culture of thinking truthfully, freely, and spiritually on the affairs of the world, all affairs concerning humankind. Therefore, nothing is outside the purview of this fellowship. We are concerned with life. We are concerned with the human dignity. We are concerned with freedom. We are concerned with justice. We are concerned with the health and wholeness of human societies wherever they exist. And in this, we are not and we shall not allow ourselves to be fragmented, divided, and dispersed by communal considerations, divisive labels of identities of any kind. Neither religion, nor politics, nor culture, nor language, neither differences of wealth or poverty shall separate us or divide or fragment us. We will be liberated from all these corrupting, fragmenting, disabling labels, walls, differences. And we shall claim and celebrate the freedom to love one another without any precondition, without any discrimination, without any hesitation, completely uninfluenced by all the brainwashing that has happened in the past, brainwashing that has gone against the interest both of truth and justice, brainwashing that has corrupted and crippled our humanity. We wish to be healthy as human beings, and that sign of health is that we can relate to each other in the purity and power of our mutual love and commitment. And we shall not allow the evil influences of the world to penetrate our midst and to scatter and destroy, divide and destroy this beautiful YouTube-based fellowship which I have come to love, I must tell you, in the fullness of my heart. Thank you for making all of this possible. I'm deeply beholden to every one of you. Once again, a big thank you.